Kublai Khan, the esteemed grandson of Genghis Khan, was the conqueror of China and the founder of the Yuan Dynasty. Kublai Khan was born in 1215 during the reign of his grandfather, Emperor Genghis Khan. From a young age, he was trained for future warfare and hunting, while also receiving an education in philosophy, reading, and writing. Kublai Khan had a strong knowledge of both Mongolian and Chinese literature, likely influenced by his mother, Sorkotani Beki, a Karaite princess. His father was Tolui. At the age of 36, Kublai's elder brother, Mongke, became the Mongolian emperor, while Kublai himself was establishing a reputation as a reliable military leader. Kublai's military successes coincided with the decline of the existing leadership in northern China, as he and his brother Mongke aimed to conquer all of China. Kublai effectively carried out his duties, but his brother Mongke met a tragic fate, being killed in 1259 while battling the Song dynasty in southern China. Kublai assumed he would inherit his brother's throne upon hearing of Mongke's death, but such assumptions can often be unreliable. Arikboge, another brother of the great Khan, was named the new Mongol emperor in place of Mongke. This decision was wholly unacceptable to Kublai and could not be ignored. Kublai's logical solution was to negotiate a truce with the embattled Song dynasty, enabling him to swiftly return to Mongolia and challenge Arikboge's ascension. Upon his return, Kublai convened a great assembly, or Kuriltai, where he was proclaimed Great Khan and the successor to his deceased brother Mongke. This event, which took place in the spring of 1260, sparked a civil war between the estranged brothers that lasted until the summer of 1264, when Arikboge finally surrendered and ceased his struggle. Now the sole ruler of the Mongol Empire, Kublai Khan turned his attention back to the Chinese territories. Despite the ongoing threat from another relative, Kaidu, a grandson of Ogodae, Kublai was intrigued by Chinese culture, although he did not see the Chinese as equal to his own people. After bringing the entire Song dynasty under his control during the 1270s, Kublai Khan aimed to win over the Chinese populace while asserting the Mongolians as a superior class in the social hierarchy. In 1271, the Mongol emperor rebranded his realm as the Yuan Dynasty and established a new capital in present-day Beijing, adopting many of the local traditions and practices. However, despite these changes, Kublai still imposed a clear hierarchy within Yuan society, placing the Mongols above the local population. As expected, the Mongols were at the top of the hierarchy, followed by foreign administrative officials, with the Chinese peasantry at the bottom. Kublai Khan was known for his religious tolerance, but he favored certain belief systems, like Buddhism, over the local religions. These factors, along with the rising poverty rate among the Chinese, meant that Kublai Khan wasn't universally loved in China. However, he was at least less oppressive than many of his predecessors. However, Kublai Khan's less brutal treatment of his conquered subjects did not mean he was a pacifist or lacked motivation. Even towards the end of his reign, the Great Khan remained actively involved in foreign conflicts. Towards the end of the 13th century, Kublai Khan sought to expand his empire further, with Java as one of his targets. He dispatched an envoy named Meng Qi to negotiate with the king of Singasari in Java, proposing that the kingdom submit to Mongolian authority and protection in exchange for paying tribute. The proposal was met with extreme hostility by King Kertanagara, who retaliated by mutilating the envoy. Meng Qi's ears were brutally cut off and his face branded with a hot iron before he was sent back to the Mongol emperor in disgrace. Kublai Khan was enraged by the Singasari king's treatment of his envoy and promptly ordered a punitive expedition to Java. It is said that the Khan assembled up to 30,000 men and 1,000 ships for the 1292 campaign. Upon arriving in Java, the Mongol invaders discovered, to their surprise, that King Kertanagara was dead. King Kertanagara had been murdered by one of his vassals, Jayakatwang. who then took the throne. The Yuan troops had to decide whether to return home since the man who mistreated their envoy was dead, or continue their mission to punish the kingdom. Raden Wijaya, the son-in-law of the deceased king, seized what he saw as an unmissable opportunity. He quickly formed an alliance with the Yuan forces after their arrival in Java, uniting to defeat Jayakatwang. However, he had ulterior motives. Aligning himself with the Yuan Khan, Raden Wijaya and his new allies attacked the successor Singasari king, ultimately killing him and completely defeating his forces. With the expedition deemed a success, Kublai Khan's forces celebrated their victory. Wijaya offered to return to his homeland of Majapahit to gather the tribute for the Yuan ruler. Of the Khan's 3 military officers, Ike Mese, Shibi, and Gaoxing, only Gaoxing found this move problematic. However, his concerns were dismissed by his colleagues, who allowed Wijaya to depart as he wished. For reasons unknown, after returning to Majapahit, Raden Wijaya requested that some of the Yuan forces visit his territory unarmed, and they complied. As the unarmed Mongol soldiers approached Majapahit, Wijaya ordered his own troops to attack them. This massacre was just the beginning, as it set the stage for a larger ambush on the rest of the Khan's forces. The Mongols were completely taken aback by the unexpected attack, and were unable to organize a defense against their supposed ally. Their attempts to defend themselves collapsed, and they were forced to retreat hastily to their ships to evacuate Java while the weather remained favorable. Having lost thousands of men, the Yuan troops sailed back to their Khan, bearing the demoralizing news of their unexpected defeat. The defeat was particularly frustrating for Gaoxing, who had warned his fellow officers of such a possibility, but his cautions were ignored. Kublai Khan appreciated Gaoxing's foresight after his men returned home and rewarded him with 50 taels of gold for his efforts to avert the needless and humiliating crisis. Ike Mese and Shibi were severely punished for their failures and naivety, each losing a third of their properties. These penalties demonstrated the Khan's authority, but they did not signal any retaliation against Majapahit. Raden Wijaya faced no punishment. By this time, Kublai Khan was old, and his health was in severe decline. Burdened by familial and military losses, the Mongol ruler sought solace in food and drink to ease his troubled heart. The once mighty Khan began to overeat excessively and gained a startling amount of weight. This eventually took a toll on his health, crippling the great leader more than any army ever could. Kublai Khan passed away on February 18, 1294, at the age of 79. Following the great Khan's passing, the Yuan dynasty would not endure for even another century. Java became home to the thriving Majapahit Empire rather than a vassal of Kublai's short-lived Yuan dynasty. Although the expedition to Java initially appeared promising, it ultimately proved to be a failure from the very beginning. The individual who prompted the punitive mission was killed before the Mongols could punish him, forcing them to redirect their violent discipline onto his killer and successor. Their ally then betrayed them, as one of the Yuan officers had foreseen, leaving the surviving Mongols to retreat in disgrace. This disaster tragically marked the end of Kublai Khan's reign. The burden of defeat and loss proved too much for his heavy heart. Kublai Khan soon passed away, and in Java, the man who outmaneuvered his best troops and the empire he established rose to power.